Hello everyone. Today, we are going to look at the top 10 states with the highest sales taxes in the United States in 2024. Here are the 10 states in the US with the highest sales taxes as of 2024. Here are the 10 states in the US with the highest sales taxes as of 2024. Did you know that each state in the United States has different consumption tax rates? Even if you buy the same item, the tax you pay may vary depending on which state you purchase it in. Which state in the United States has the highest sales tax? The United States is a federal system in which both the federal government and the state governments each levy taxes. Because excise taxes are taxes levied by state governments, each state can set its own tax rates. State governments use the revenue they receive from excise taxes to fund a variety of public services, including education and road construction. What should I pay attention to when comparing consumption taxes? Tax rates can vary by region, even within the same state. Additional local taxes may apply in metropolitan areas. Tax rates may vary depending on the item. Some items, such as clothing and groceries, may have lower rates or be exempt from tax. When shopping online, it is common for sales tax rates to be based on the state in which the seller is located. There has been an increase in the number of cases where the tax rate in the state where the seller is located is changed to the tax rate in the state where the consumer is located. Now, let's start looking for the right to know. Vermont, the 10th state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. Its beautiful natural scenery and eco-friendly image make it one of the top 10 states in the United States with the highest consumption taxes. It is one of the least densely populated states in the United States. Because of their small populations relative to their vast geographic areas, state governments tend to rely on excise taxes to raise the revenue they need. It is a popular tourist destination due to its beautiful natural scenery and various leisure activities. Tourist spending is a major contributor to Vermont's excise tax revenue. Consumption by residents with high income levels contributes to increased consumption tax revenue. Environmental protection policies to maintain our beautiful natural environment may result in increased costs. Heating costs are high in winter, and snow removal costs also increase due to heavy snowfall. In areas frequented by tourists, prices may be relatively high. Because developable land is limited, real estate prices can be high. Items subject to excise tax are not much different from those in other states. Special sales taxes may apply in some areas. Most purchases of goods are subject to a consumption tax. Most groceries are exempt from sales tax, but clothing purchases are subject to sales tax. Consumption tax is levied on various services, including meals and hotel accommodations. Consumption taxes are calculated by multiplying the price of goods or services by a certain percentage. Although it is famous for its beautiful natural environment and high quality of life, the high cost of living is a factor to consider. If you are planning to move or travel, it is a good idea to gather enough information about living expenses, including consumption taxes, in advance. Understanding how sales tax is calculated and what items are subject to sales tax will help you plan your budget. Texas, the 9th state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. Texas, one of the largest states in the U.S., ranks 9th among states with the highest sales taxes. Without an income tax, state governments tend to rely on consumption taxes to raise needed revenue. It is a state with a large area and large population. Sufficient tax revenues are needed to maintain scale and provide a variety of public services. It is one of the largest oil-producing regions in the United States. Since the state's finances are greatly affected by fluctuations in energy prices, there are cases where the proportion of consumption taxes is increased to secure stable tax revenues. Items subject to excise tax are not much different from those in other states. Special sales taxes may apply in some areas. Consumption tax is charged when purchasing clothing. Consumption tax is levied on various services, including meals and hotel accommodations. Consumption taxes are calculated by multiplying the price of goods or services by a certain percentage. If you are planning a trip or immigration, it is a good idea to know about consumption taxes in advance. Understanding how sales tax is calculated and what items are subject to sales tax will help you plan your budget. Many local governments impose sales taxes, and the rates vary from place to place. The reason we do not impose a statewide consumption tax is a result of a combination of factors. The purpose is to lower the consumption tax burden and encourage business attraction and economic revitalization. This is because the residents had strong resistance to the high tax burden. This may be a result of your independent nature. Oregon, the 8th state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. Oregon, known for its beautiful natural scenery and eco-friendly policies, ranks 8th in the United States for highest sales taxes. Oregon is one of the few states in the United States that does not impose an income tax. State governments seek to raise needed revenue through consumption taxes rather than income taxes. With its high sales tax revenues, Oregon invests in a variety of public services, including education, transportation, and the environment. The tourism industry is developed in major cities such as Portland. As many tourists visit, consumption tax revenue also accounts for a significant portion. Items subject to excise tax are not much different from those in other states. Special sales taxes may apply in some areas. Most purchases of goods are subject to a consumption tax. Oregon does not charge sales tax on most groceries. Consumption tax is charged when purchasing clothing. Consumption tax is levied on various services, including meals and hotel accommodations. Consumption taxes are calculated by multiplying the price of goods or services by a certain percentage. If you are planning a trip or immigration to Oregon, it is a good idea to learn about sales taxes in advance. Understanding how sales tax is calculated and what items are subject to sales tax will help you plan your budget. Oklahoma, the 7th state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. It may come as a bit of a surprise that Oklahoma ranks 7th in the U.S. sales tax rate. It is generally known that high-income states have high consumption taxes, but this is because it is a relatively low-income state. State governments must rely on other sources of revenue, such as excise taxes and sales taxes, rather than income taxes to raise funds. It relies heavily on the energy industry, oil and natural gas. Since the state government's finances are greatly affected by fluctuations in energy prices, it is inevitable to increase the proportion of consumption taxes to secure stable tax revenues. There have been difficulties in securing an education budget, and efforts to secure the education budget through consumption taxes have continued. As federal funding declined, states increasingly needed to raise their own revenue. Low-income people may find life more difficult due to high consumption taxes. High consumption taxes can discourage consumption and hinder local economic growth. Non-essential consumption could be further reduced. Companies located there may find themselves less competitive than those in other states due to higher consumption taxes. High cost of living and high consumption taxes can cause population outflow. High consumption taxes are a constant source of debate. They argue that cutting consumption taxes can stimulate consumption and attract corporate investment, thereby revitalizing the local economy. They argue that current tax rates should be maintained to maintain a high level of public services. High consumption taxes are the result of a combination of factors, including the state's fiscal situation, industrial structure, and the income levels of its residents. New York State ranks 6th in highest sales taxes in the U.S. It is a charming city that is the center of the American economy and a diverse cultural melting pot, but it is also known for its high cost of living. So why is New York State's sales tax so high? Vast urban areas must provide high-quality public services to millions of citizens. It requires enormous financial resources, and consumption taxes are one of the main means of meeting these financial demands. New York State is home to a variety of industries, including finance, media, and fashion. Industries create high added value, but at the same time they also generate high consumption. It is a world-class tourist city, visited by numerous tourists every year. Tourist spending is a major contributor to New York State's sales tax revenue. It is one of the oldest states in the United States and has a complex tax system that has evolved over time. Higher sales taxes add to the cost of living burden for New Yorkers, and can discourage consumption, hindering local economic growth. For low-income earners, the burden of consumption tax may be felt relatively heavily. Businesses may find that higher sales taxes make them less competitive in other states. Higher consumption taxes may have an impact on rising real estate prices. They argue that cutting consumption taxes can stimulate consumption and attract corporate investment, thereby revitalizing the local economy. They argue that current tax rates should be maintained to maintain a high level of public services. State governments must find ways to ease the burden on residents from high consumption taxes, while at the same time ensuring sustainable economic growth. Minnesota, the 5th state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. in sales taxes, is closely related to the spending patterns of Minnesota residents. The state's fiscal situation, and Minnesota's unique economic structure, quality education, excellent health care system, we are making significant financial investments to maintain a well-developed social welfare system. Securing sufficient tax revenues is essential to provide high-quality, Public services and consumption taxes are one important source of revenue. The income tax rate is lower than in other states. State governments are forced to rely more on other sources of taxation, such as consumption taxes, in addition to income taxes. Various industries, including agriculture, manufacturing, and service industries, are developed. Agriculture is one of the major industries, and the excise tax on the sale of agricultural products contributes to the state government's tax revenue. This may be because the residents' income level and standard of living are relatively high. High consumption taxes can discourage household spending and hinder local economic growth. For low-income earners, the burden of consumption tax is relatively large, which can make life even more difficult. Businesses often pass on increased consumption taxes to their product prices, which can lead to higher prices. It can reduce the purchasing power of consumers and have negative effects across the economy. High sales taxes could discourage businesses from investing or expanding their operations in Minnesota, because it incurs relatively high costs compared to other states. They argue that cutting consumption taxes can stimulate household spending and attract corporate investment, thereby revitalizing the local economy. They argue that current tax rates should be maintained to maintain a high level of public services, to improve the quality of life of residents and achieve sustainable economic growth. Careful discussion and social consensus on policies related to consumption taxes are necessary. Louisiana, the fourth state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. Louisiana, a charming southern state, has the fourth highest sales tax rate in the U.S. It is one of the states with relatively low income levels in the United States. There is a tendency to increase the proportion of consumption tax in order to reduce the income tax burden. Despite low income levels, sufficient resources are needed to provide various public services, including education and health care. We secure tax revenue through consumption taxes. There is a high dependence on energy industries such as oil and natural gas. Since the state's finances are greatly affected by fluctuations in energy prices, there are cases where the consumption tax share is increased to secure stable tax revenue. Items subject to excise tax are not much different from those in other states. Special sales taxes may apply in some areas. Most purchases of goods are subject to a consumption tax. Most groceries are exempt from sales tax, but clothing purchases are subject to sales tax. Consumption tax is levied on various services, including meals and hotel accommodations. Consumption taxes are calculated by multiplying the price of goods or services by a certain percentage. If you are planning a trip or immigration, it is a good idea to know about consumption taxes in advance. Understanding how sales tax is calculated and what items are subject to sales tax will help you plan your budget. Colorado, the third state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. Known for its beautiful nature and variety of leisure activities, Colorado ranks third in the United States for its high sales taxes. It is one of the states with a high standard of living in the United States. Many high-income earners live in large cities such as Denver, so they have a high ability to pay consumption taxes. With the beautiful natural environment, including the Rocky Mountains, as a backdrop, the tourism industry has developed, attracting many tourists. As a result, consumption tax revenue is increasing. Based on high consumption tax revenues, we are investing in various public services such as education, transportation, and the environment. Items subject to excise tax are not much different from those in other states. Special sales taxes may apply in some areas. Most purchases of goods are subject to a consumption tax. Consumption tax is charged when purchasing clothing. Consumption tax is levied on various services, including meals and hotel accommodations. Consumption taxes are calculated by multiplying the price of goods or services by a certain percentage. If you are planning a trip or immigration, it is a good idea to know about consumption taxes in advance. Understanding how sales tax is calculated and what items are subject to sales tax will help you plan your budget. Washington, the second state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. Washington state has the second highest sales tax in the U.S. Why is Washington state's sales tax so high? It is one of the few states in the United States that does not impose an income tax. State governments seek to raise needed revenue through consumption taxes rather than income taxes. With its high sales tax revenues, Washington state invests in a variety of public services, including education, transportation, and the environment. The tourism industry is developed in major cities such as Seattle. As many tourists visit, consumption tax revenue also accounts for a significant portion. Items subject to excise tax are not much different from those in other states. Special sales taxes may apply in some areas. Most purchases of goods are subject to a consumption tax. Most groceries are exempt from sales tax, but clothing purchases are subject to sales tax. Consumption tax is levied on various services, including meals and hotel accommodations. Consumption taxes are calculated by multiplying the price of goods or services by a certain percentage. If you are planning a trip or immigration, it is a good idea to know about consumption taxes in advance. Understanding how sales tax is calculated and what items are subject to sales tax will help you plan your budget. California, the first state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. California, known as the state with the highest consumption tax in the United States. Why is California's consumption tax so high? The population is large and the demand for various services is high. Providing these services requires a lot of budget, and one way to cover this is by raising the consumption tax. It is one of the states with a high standard of living in the United States. Because there are many residents with high income levels, they do not feel much difficulty despite the relatively high consumption tax burden. The statewide sales tax rate is 7.25%, but additional rates may apply in some localities. The actual consumption tax rate paid by consumers may vary by region. Most items subject to excise taxes are similar to those in other states, but there are some exceptions. Most groceries are exempt from sales tax. Some processed foods or prepared meals may be subject to sales tax. Clothing is subject to a consumption tax. Consumption taxes are levied on a variety of services, including meals, hotel accommodations, and automobile repairs. Consumption taxes are calculated by multiplying the price of goods or services by a certain percentage. Additional local taxes may be added here. Understanding how sales tax is calculated and what items are subject to sales tax will help you plan your budget. Utah, the 11th state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. Known for its beautiful natural scenery and diverse leisure activities, Utah ranks 11th in the United States for highest sales taxes. Instead of lowering the income tax, the necessary tax revenue is secured through consumption taxes. Utah is a popular tourist destination with many attractions, including Salt Lake City and National Park. Tourist spending has a significant impact on Utah's excise tax revenue. It is one of the fastest growing states in the United States. To provide public services to a growing population, sufficient tax revenues must be secured. Items subject to excise tax are not much different from those in other states. Special sales taxes may apply in some areas. Most purchases of goods are subject to a consumption tax. Most groceries are exempt from sales tax, but clothing purchases are subject to sales tax. Consumption tax is levied on various services, including meals and hotel accommodations. The consumption tax rate is 6.85%, and additional rates may apply depending on the region. Consumption taxes are calculated by multiplying the price of goods or services by a certain percentage. If you are planning a trip or immigration to Utah, it is a good idea to learn about sales taxes in advance. Understanding how consumption tax is calculated and what items are subject to consumption tax will help you plan your budget. Wyoming, the 12th state with the highest consumption tax in the U.S. Wyoming, known for its wide-open grasslands and majestic Rocky Mountains, ranks 12th among the states with the highest sales taxes in the United States. It is one of the least densely populated states in the United States. Because of their small populations relative to their vast geographic areas, state governments tend to rely on excise taxes to raise the revenue they need. Wyoming, home to a variety of natural attractions including Yellowstone National Park, is a popular tourist destination. Tourist spending is a major contributor to Wyoming's excise tax revenue. It is a region rich in energy resources such as coal and natural gas. Since the state's finances are greatly affected by fluctuations in energy prices, there are cases where the consumption tax share is increased to secure stable tax revenue. Items subject to excise tax are not much different from those in other states. Special sales taxes may apply in some areas. Most purchases of goods are subject to a consumption tax. In Wyoming, there is no sales tax on most food items. Consumption tax is charged when purchasing clothing. Consumption tax is levied on various services, including meals and hotel accommodations. The state sales tax rate in Wyoming is 4%, with additional rates levied by localities. Consumption taxes are calculated by multiplying the price of goods or services by a certain percentage. This information is based on the most up-to-date data provided by reliable sources, including the Internal Revenue Service (IRS) and state tax authority websites. Oregon has an income tax, but no sales tax. New Hampshire does not have a sales tax on groceries, but it does have a sales tax on other items. Alaska, Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming do not have state sales tax. Because each state has different sales tax rates, the amount of tax you pay may vary depending on which state you purchase an item in. As online shopping becomes more active, interest in consumption tax is increasing. Subscriptions, likes, and comments are a great help to us. See you in the next video. Thank you.